This segment is brought to you by JigMasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to JigMasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today. Hello, and welcome back to the Paddle and Fin podcast. This is Adventures with Outdoorwoman, and here's your host, Mrs. Susie Roloff. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Adventures with Outdoorwoman. And again, I'm your host, Susie Roloff. And today I've got another epic guest with me. I've got Mrs. Katie Backa from Little Elm, Texas. And let's all give her a big shout out and welcome. And I'm going to let Katie kind of take it from here. You guys might have seen her and Ryan on The Reel Down last week. But this time I just got Katie herself, all to myself, today. So we're going to talk about some stuff, and I'm going to let her take it away from here.
Hey, so yeah, totally just me running solo this time. But yeah, like you said, I'm down here in Little Elm, Texas, and running my butt off, going from trail to trail for the next couple of weeks.
Right. Yeah. You just had Lake Fork. How was that for you?
That was a challenge. It was pretty much as challenging as we guessed it was going to be when we were on the Reel Down. That's exactly what happened.
Right.
The weather just it didn't want to cooperate. And with all the boat tournaments and stuff going on at the time, it was tricky. I mean, and you could see it on the leaderboard. You know, there just was not nearly as many fish caught as you would have expected for that many anglers to be out there. I mean, there was like 155 people and I think it was like 200 some catches, maybe 300 something.
Yeah, not quite the numbers you were expecting. And the limits for each day, too, were pretty low numbered as well, which was pretty surprising. But then at the same time, for this time of year and the weather, you're like, well.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the gamble you take on Fork, like most of the time. It doesn't matter, you know, if you're going out on Lake Fork on a beautiful day, you would be surprised at how tricky it can get, especially they're so heavily pressured, you know, all the time up there. But yeah, it was tough to get on them for sure.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you guys haven't listened to The Reel Down, make sure you listen to that, kind of learn more about her. But if you haven't, Katie is a pro staff on Old Town. She's in a Predator. I mean, you can look at her shirt there. She representing the Old Town. She's also a part of, well, I guess, you know, instead of me talking about what you're part of, you know, how about, you know, just kind of briefly go over your pro staffs and everything.
So I am very proud to represent Old Town, obviously. The Fishbrain app is another company that has taken me on this year, as well as Anglers Pro Tackle here in North Richland Hills in Texas. And Lake Fork Trophy Lures and Rod Socks up in Emory, which those guys always take very good care of us whenever we compete up on Fork. So we always stop in and see Ronnie when we're up that way. But yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have all of those backers. So it's very cool.
Awesome. Good deal. And of course, you know, you've also got your website, Fish Like a Cat.
Yes, ma'am. That's like definitely a cool creative outlet, because I really don't limit myself to what sort of content's going to be on there. You know, originally I was like, I'm just going to do like sort of a blog, and then it morphed into more of like, I would much rather write informational stuff and educational stuff. And on top of that, sometimes I like to color. So I also started busting out like handmade drawings on there of like explaining different techniques and whatnot. And like, that stuff went over really well with people. That's been like really well received because, you know, I think sometimes a problem anglers have just in general, nobody wants to say what they don't know. They don't want to admit it, even to ask, you know, like, I don't know how to do this one thing, or they'll hear something but not know what the term meant to begin with. So they kind of are at a disadvantage every once in a while. And that's why I like to, fill in that gap of not being asked directly, but kind of like pushing the easier stuff so that you get a good base knowledge that you can build on rather than just being expected to just know all of it.
Right. And that's a perception, that a lot of people have to seasoned anglers, and, that's the other thing too, is like, what really makes somebody a seasoned angler? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 15? Is it 20? It varies, and once you get to kind of sort of that status, then it's just like, you feel like you have this expectation to know everything and be able to share it with everybody, but then you're secretly like, I really don't know how to do the Carolina rig. If somebody asked me right now, I'd be like, hang on just a second. My friend's texting me, go Carolina rig,
Well, and that's really, I mean, like you said, like there's, what is the standard? A lot of people like to, argue, oh, this person's not really a pro or they're super seasoned angler and whatnot. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, people that have been fishing since they were knee-high to a duck, I mean, sure, they've probably been fishing for a while. But when you look at it from this perspective of, all right, what's the average amount of time somebody's on the water, just a regular Joe type of person, probably a couple of times a year maybe, or throughout the summer. But, so you look at that. But since moving to Texas, we go out on our kayaks, I don't know, about 250 days plus out of the year. So that's when you start like, okay, well, you may have only been doing it for us, competitively for the last 2 years, but that's like over 400 or 500 days on the water,
Right. Yep.
in that short amount of time. So it's really relative. I mean, you can learn a lot very quickly, but that's definitely a good question of like, well, what makes you there?
Right.
When are you at that point?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like, I feel that, everybody can teach somebody something, regardless of what level you're at. Even a newbie can teach a seasoned veteran, something.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, like, a veteran could know every trick of the book, and they have somebody new come in and just like the way that their mindset is. And they're just like, how do you stay so calm? Like, stuff like that.
It's anything. It's that type of thing. And on top of it, it's the stuff that there is something to be said for a new set of eyes on something. When you don't have a preconceived notion of like, why would you ever put that thing on that rig? That doesn't make any sense. And then 6 months from now, you'll see it all over YouTube. Everybody's doing it and they're calling it something new. And like somebody accidentally did it once and it worked out really well. So, like you said, I absolutely believe everybody can teach everybody something.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Um, let's see here. I thought of a thought, but then now it lost me. But so yeah, I know that you actually I don't want to say like that, you're kind of like this rare lady, but like, you have your spouse that you get to fish with, which I'm
Yeah.
kind of envious in a way, but then sometimes in another way, I'm just like, I wonder how that would really be between with me and Adam, So, first, before we kind of delve into that, so I know you guys were married in 2018, but tell me, how'd you meet Ryan?
So, funny story. I actually met Ryan. This will be going on 25 years ago. We grew up together in the same town and ended up going to junior high together. We were at different elementary schools, but wound up obviously going to junior high together. So we met when we were about 11 years old.
Nice.
And we were always just buddies growing up. We used to go ice skating every Friday. That was like the thing to do when we were younger. So we just always were friends, through junior high and high school and whatnot. And as adults, we just kept kind of like, we would randomly run into each other. Like every couple of years, someone would have a birthday or a graduation party. And we would see each other and kind of catch up. But it wasn't until, at one point, we both ended up being single and available, and just got into a discussion over the Steelers losing an AFC championship game. And somebody triggered a conversation on a thread that I'd started on Facebook about it. And that kind of led to like a private message of like, hey, man, what's going on? I haven't seen you in forever. We should go, go grab a cup of coffee or something. And we've not spoken or been apart pretty much since then. And that was like 4 years ago. So,
right.
But yeah, so it was one of those like weird, we always knew each other. We never dated back then, but sometimes the stars align just right. And,
right.
You realize you're like, holy crap, they were right there the whole time. Like,
right. Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was kind of interesting too. When me and my husband had met, we're like one of those online couples, I'll admit that. We'd actually met on eHarmony, but we had actually met once before back in college, because we're both kind of from the same area. And local college, Illinois Central College, we had met very briefly back then, and when we were messaging each other during the kind of get to know each other on eHarmony and whatnot, he's like, I am 100% sure I've already met you before once, but it's like really briefly. And then like we got together and he told me, I'm like, oh my God, we totally did, and it's just so funny how things work out like that sometimes, you just like look at
like,
right?
You don't realize, like, they sometimes, the corny sayings of like, it was right in front of you the whole time.
Right. Yeah, it's just like life's little ironies. It's just like, haha.
Yeah, it actually happens like that sometimes.
Right. Yep. But has Ryan always kayaked fishing since you met him, or did he get into it with you, or did you both kind of get into it at the same time?
We both fished, obviously, like before we met each other. We were both younger when we got into fishing. But we got our first kayaks together up
nice.
in Pittsburgh. We were both in ocean kayaks, which is like, it was pretty cool that, later on this became a thing under the same brand. But we had ocean kayaks and they were awesome, up there. But we came down here and it wasn't about 2 weeks that we were like, yeah, the wind's way too strong. We're going to need pedal kayaks, because that's just, that's a lot of work to paddle. I give mad respect to all the guys and girls that paddle, not pedal, because
right.
it's not my bag, man. I love my pedal drive. But yeah, so we got into it together. But 4 years ago, that really wasn't a big thing up in Pittsburgh. We kind of got a lot of crooked looks of like, what'd you do to your canoe, type of thing. But we just rolled with it. And when we came down here, we were like, oh my gosh, we found our people. Like,
right? Other people know our calling.
Yeah, that's
right. So when it comes to fishing gear and everything, so are you guys like, do you reel and cast with like the same hand, or are you both different? You both use the same?
We both are right-handed naturally, and we both left-hand reel.
Yes.
We're backwards.
Yeah,
but
me too. Right.
It works better because you cast and you keep it in that hand. There's no that back and forth.
Switching back and forth, right?
That's just how we always were. That's how we always fished. Even when, back in the day, we might have rocked a spinning rod, maybe.
Well, I totally did. That's what I grew up on, was a spinning rod. I didn't convert to bait caster until like maybe 4 years ago. Like I hadn't even touched one until like 4 years ago, and I was like, whoa. This is actually kind of nice.
Whole new world. Like,
right? I still can't pitch very well. I'll get a bird's nest, like crazy. But like other things, like I'm just like, I can cast frogs really far now. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like, tackle and gear and stuff like that, how are you guys about like, sharing? Do you have your own separate stuff? Do you share a lot? Do you steal each other's stuff? How's that kind of?
It's totally a little bit of all of those things. Because like, I mean, we do have like our like joint tackle sections that are, the stuff that you change out throughout the season,
Mm-hmm.
hard bait type stuff, and plus, plastics and whatnot. But there's stuff that's in both of our tackle that's like, these things don't leave me ever. And if you look at them, like these are mine. And it's not a lot of stuff. It's like simple stuff, but it's like my jackhammers. Those are my jackhammers. The jackhammers and like the like frogs and stuff. Like he does not like to frog at all, and I'm all about it. But I have like my super awesome bullywaz and stuff that like, no, I don't like to share these ones. But when it comes to when it comes to like simple stuff like plastics and whatnot, that's just practicality wise, we pretty much will, every bag of plastic we buy, we split in half most of the time. Unless it's something that's like a really small amount in the bag, but like it's tricky, financially, because you get people that are like, oh, well, I'm going to go on this tournament. I bought like 10 bags of that color. You don't buy that many? No, like we bought one and we're just hoping to keep them going for the day,
Right, exactly. And that's actually kind of gonna be like my next topic too. Being a married couple that both share the same hobby, I mean, people who do this all the time by themselves, they don't think about, they're like, well, that's twice the expenses, for a lot of stuff, the entry fees, I mean, the gas and stuff is, sometimes about the same, but like everything else, I mean, yeah, that's a lot to take in and take on sometimes, and it's not always cheap.
No. Oh, good Lord. Especially now with a Hobie on Fork, the bass up on Logan Martin, and then we'll be right back on to Fork for the next bass event. I think like a week, just shy of a week after being up at Logan Martin, we'll have been at all three of those events, and that gets a little trying.
I mean, yeah, and for you guys who are listening or watching and you're not sure like how much those events cost per person, the bass event is $250 per person. Yep. The Hobie events are $235 per person. You take that times, 3 or 4. I mean, you're looking at $1,000 already in like less than a month.
Right.
So
that include driving like Alabama. That's going to be a 10.5 hour drive from here. Like we're totally into road tripping. Like that's definitely, we love doing that, but it's just the like, oh my God, like, are we going to be able to make it back? Type thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, all right, what sacrifices do I have to make this week? Are we buying ramen to last us for the rest of this week, so that we can have a hotel to stay at or have enough gas to get somewhere, A lot of people don't think about this, it's just like you both love and share the same thing. You share, your finances, but you use them at the same time too, in the same ways.
It goes just as fast. I mean, and that's why we talked about it on the Reel Down about, we really do try to make our gear last a long time. We try to take very good care of it. Everything got soaked on Fork, so there was like a tackle explosion in the house. Like all of our rain gear and our tackle box, everything was laid out to dry because we can't afford to let a whole box of something rust out or gear start to get all nasty and rank. So that's another like tricky part of it, is having the room to do all of that. Just you to lay all that stuff out was kind of tricky,
Right. Yeah. And if, you have something go bad on you or something like that, and if it's an expensive thing, it's just like, yeah, man, we got to sacrifice a tournament because you got to pay for, a expensive part or something like that. Or if the truck breaks down, then you're both out of luck, It's just like.
And that just happened. Like,
right.
We have blown a tire, like when we left a tournament just last summer. We were leaving and it was one of those, what's that noise? And you kind of start like, truck feels funny. Like, what's going on? And sure enough, we had a big old piece of metal stuck in the tire. So, I mean, that stuff happens too.
Right. Yeah. The always expect the worst to happen. It's like Murphy's Law,
Yep.
It's crazy. But you guys don't have kids or anything too, and before we started recording, we had talked a little bit about that too. It's just like, what would happen if you guys were to, decide if you have a kid, it would change things dramatically. How would you switch off everything? Would you have to go solo and just like trade off, or it just, yeah.
We have like talked about that because we've like been, either way we'd be happy. If we don't ever have children, we'd be happy. If we have children, whether it was planned or not, we'd be happy. That's just how it is. But if that happened anytime in the near future, that would definitely be pretty challenging. Because I wouldn't want to come off the water either. And I would definitely probably take the stand of like, we got to share this. Like, we made it. So now responsibility,
Right.
But I don't know. I would not put it past me or us to be like, well, they make slings, right? Like it can ride in front for a while, and then we'll just put it on the back whenever it gets a little bigger. Like, right. I mean, it might cut back on the amount of time we're physically on the water, but when it comes down to it, I don't think it would halt our career. I think it would just make it a little more, of a juggling act to do it.
Yep.
Plus we have some pretty amazing neighbors that's how we have dogs and we travel a lot, but our neighbors are absolutely incredible. So, and who doesn't want to like help watch a squishy baby, so I'm just saying,
and
we may have options.
Right. I mean, your kids are your pets right now too. And even that can be really expensive. There's a buddy of mine from like the Chicago area. Him and his partner have been together for a long time and they got a dog, but they'll take the dog with them because like putting a dog up in a kennel for a week can be a couple $100.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, oh my God.
And we have St. Bernards. So with two of them, and I don't even want to fathom what the pet hotel rate for dogs that size are.
Right.
That was one thing that we are really, really fortunate that, we have neighbors that love dogs and are right here that we don't have to disrupt them like that. Because even just going on a car ride for that long, like it was tough bringing them down here because it was like a 24-hour drive.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, having to stop a lot to let them move around so they don't get all, stiff. But, yeah, they're another challenge, but that's one of those things, like, you just find a way to work with it.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So, yeah, definitely interesting things to kind of think about and consider with all that. I'm glad, and I've had this decision for a long time, too, of not having kids, but, like, coming to like, the perceptions and stereotypes and whatnot when it comes to women, I still get asked like, when are you guys going to have kids? I'm like, we're not. And, and like a lot of people are sometimes like, oh, why not? It's like, because it's my choice. Like, I don't want to have kids. It should not be an expected thing. Like, why is there this perception that like, oh yeah, you're a woman, you have to have kids once you get married? No, I don't. I get to choose what I do with my life. Like, I don't want kids. And so what if you're not okay with that? That's your perception of what, you think a woman should do, but no.
Well, and that's one thing, the other night on KBN, man, when they were talking about that subject and mentioned that, in so many words, somebody got told like, you need to go home and spread your legs. Like, that's one of those, what? Like, somebody actually said that to you? Like, that would, no, you would not want to tell me that.
Right. Yeah.
And that's one of those, that's a really personal decision for people. And, it's none of their business why you do, don't, or want to, or whatever,
right.
if you don't want to discuss it, or, not to mention the fact that there's single dads out there too.
Yes.
All these people like, oh, well, if you had kids, you wouldn't have time to go fishing. Well, I know a lot of single dads, like we see them all the time that, they make it work just like everybody else, and it's not exclusive to chicks to have to figure out what to do for childcare. So,
right. Yeah.
we all
it's both ways. Yep.
Yep.
Exactly. And yeah, and it's just a lot of things are just taken out of perspective. But in the kayak fishing industry, it's not really known. A lot of anglers who are like single parents and fish and are in the top 10, the top 50, let's say, the top 50 in the nation. You think about it and you're like, okay, they might be married, but they don't have kids. They might have a girlfriend or something like that, but like, one or the other usually doesn't have kids. You don't really hear or see about it, And that makes me wonder too, is just like, if these big top guys had a family, would they still be able to do what they did?
Right.
That's the other part of it too. It's just like there could be, the next, big gun out there who has a family, but they just can't do it because, they have to support their family and make their life work.
Well, and that's really, to a point, it is kind of, if you want to really have a dog in the fight here, that is almost kind of like well, we'll just put it off for now. Like it's not, it doesn't work for us right now. And that's a decision that, we make, just like people who decide to hang their stuff up and just be, like a weekend warrior, more power to them. But that is one of the trade-offs of like, okay, well, do you love it that much that you're willing to kind of rearrange your world to revolve around it? And unfortunately, that's kind of exactly what you have to do. And I mean, it's hard to make all of the expenses now. I couldn't even imagine having to buy diapers on top of it. Like that just would not.
Right. Yeah.
Not be a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's another part of it too, is just, the expenses and everything. And coming back to being a professional kayak angler, right now we are slowly creeping up to that level of where it can be sustainable to make a living off of it. We're not there. We're we're slowly.
Everybody's got their little niche, their thing. There are some hammers who just like they're collecting $20,000 a year in winnings.
Right. But then you think about that though, like $20,000 to a bass boat world, that's like chump change to them.
Right.
20 G's. That's like, yeah, that's
that
nothing. That's a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about, kayak stuff and everything, that the expenses for that is cheaper, but like also at the same time, it's just like the payouts, first place in a local club might be $600, and that's just like, well, that was entry fees and gas and hotel and lodging for like 2 events. So it's just like I broke even for like 2 months. So that's great, but all right, now I got to go do it again. It's a constant battle, but we're not there yet to get to that point of where we can make it a sustainable living profession.
Well, and that's just, like you guys have your podcasts and stuff like that. I run a website. You've got some people who are guides and all this stuff. And it's like right now, if you're trying to actually make a living from doing this, it's not from the winnings. It's from the combination of all of it. If you're able to make money from a website or from guiding or whatever it is that you do, you kind of just have to juggle all of it and do everything all at once.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like people who have YouTube channels. Like I've heard a lot of mixed things on like what people actually make from YouTube or whatever. I guess it just depends on like how many views or likes or something like that. I'm not quite certain, but like you got to think about that too. There's a lot of people who make really good content out there, but the time that they have to put into that is like
nuts.
Huge. It's crazy. You have let's say you've got a 25-minute video. That's probably maybe it could be 2 days of recording that you have to go through. So you have to sit and you have to watch that. You have to clip and cut and edit and everything. It could take you 2 more days to get that done.
Totally just did it recently.
Yeah. Right.
The kayak lighting video that I just did, that was 2 days of recording and then another like week of editing. I mean, because there's just just a mass amount of footage. That's part of why it's been hard to get into, filming on the water, especially during a tournament, until they make something that has an extraordinary battery life and its memory can last and you don't have to fiddle with it. That's like one of the downfalls of action cameras is having to change the stuff out. And, when you're talking about a card that's this big,
itty bitty
on the water, I mean, it's cool that it's compact, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't have time to mess with it. Like when it shuts off, it's just shutting off.
Yeah,
but,
it's done, and I mean, I've seen people now where the ones that do have the removable batteries, they just take the battery out and put the charging cord in it,
Yep.
and they like will use like a clear coat or something of oh god, I can't even think of the term of it right now. Not epoxy, but like
silicone.
Yeah, silicone around there, so like it doesn't get wet or whatever, and they'll run the cable to their battery so that it can run all day. But
Yep.
then again, it comes to a matter of, well, how much can that memory card hold? Because certain cameras can only take so big of memory cards too. So then it's constant, all right, I got to switch this out, it's just, yeah.
Exactly. Like, I mean, especially when that's one thing on a kayak, you're not ever going to have a camera guy in the back.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You can't, I mean, you can have a camera crew following you, but like, who's paying for that? It's just like,
right. Like that's just another one of those things. But hopefully I'm really hoping, with the new Bass series coming up, I think that's going to do a lot of really good things for the sport. Just in terms of getting more exposure, even, I think that'll be a big deal for that. So I really look forward to that as well. It'll be nice to see how that goes. The only thing I'm like just a little bit not worried about, but just like that'll be interesting is seeing where all 230 something anglers are going to be at.
Yes.
I mean, it's a very big lake. There's technically enough miles of shoreline and whatnot that everybody could be a mile from each other theoretically, but there's only so many ramps. So who's going to make a run to the spots that are way, way out there, in a place you've never been? That's the other gamble.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And you hope that there aren't any like bass tournaments going on there too, I don't think there is, but you never know. That's the other gamble that sometimes you take with kayak tournaments is the bass boats, they don't care about, kayak tournaments. They're like, hey, we're going to go full bore and not even pay attention to anything. It's just like, all right, great. Woo. So.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. That's one of those, we all do share the water together. It does seem lately, though, that there are more people that are aware of our presence on the water, at least a little more. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. I mean, every once in a while you'll have somebody who does something crappy and, like either cuts you off or slams to a stop and gives you a tidal wave. But
or like fishes right at your boat. They'll throw the lure so that it like hits the water right in front of your kayak, and I'll just look at them and be like, is there not enough water in the lake for you, dude? Like, what the hell?
Right. I mean, it happens, but that's just people in general.
Right. Yeah, you're gonna have a buff. But yeah, I am excited to see how the first bass event goes, the coverage that it gets, and if it's really gonna blow up and, get big from there. I mean, it'd be exciting to see, that's the great thing about this sport right now is like, when I first got into it, it was still in its infancy, and now we've grown to where we have the problem of having too many tournaments to choose from, which, some people want to, where some people want to complain about, but it's just like, but that's a good thing to have, is having too many options, but I can see it from, different perspectives. For somebody new, they're like, oh, I can try this and see how it is, or whatever. I've got local stuff, I've got national stuff, but for like a pro, they have these bigger events that they're, kind of geared towards because, in order to try to make a living, they got to go for these big tournaments, and sometimes they're halfway across the country for them, which, I mean, granted, that's what the bass boat guys do too, But then again, at the same time, though, like the kayakers, we got to try to make a living, but the payouts just aren't there to help us do that, So it's trying to get the sponsors as well, and that's the other thing too, is, the sponsorship. I know we had talked about, like what it is to be like a pro staffer and like, people hating on that and everything. And they had talked a little bit about that on KBN the other night too. We both had some interesting talks about that, but I would also agree though that, we need some of these sponsors to like step it up for the kayak industry, because they're missing out on such a awesome opportunity right now. I don't think they have a clue yet. I think once we get the exposure at Bass, I think they're going to start catching on, because they're going to see how many people are into this.
How big of a world it is. Like that's the hope, really. I mean, and that's like, when we were on Fork for Hobie, they made a mention at the end of the tournament. They were talking about the fact that, like, this is our time. We're coming into that point in the sport where it's starting to turn people's heads and it's catching people's attention. And it kind of is like, we're the guys. Like, we're the guys that are here, like, on the front line. It's all of us came from like different capacities of it, whether, you got into it just a little while ago or you've been fishing your whole life. It's pretty cool to be like the first line of people that's like, it's a whole new sport, that hasn't existed on the professional level yet. And, everybody loves to throw around, oh yeah, Prostaff, your 10% discount or whatnot. But like, the reality of it is Prostaff is very different across the board. And, once you start getting up to a certain level, you're not working for just a discount anymore. But that's all, like you said, that's all individual, and each sponsor is different, right now. And hopefully, after this year or at the end of this year, maybe we'll start seeing more companies step forward that are like, hey, I would love to have you represent our brand. That would be cool.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And the also kind of piggybacking off of that too, the talks on KBN about, having the people misrepresenting and everything, it's just like, that's one of those fine lines where it's just like, sometimes you can't really do anything about that. Best thing, sometimes the best thing that you can do is just be like, all right, you just got to accept it for what it is. But what you can do is go out there and just, blow them out of the water. Like, show them what you can do and show them how much better you could be than, these other people. And if they're going to turn you down for you trying to be your best, then that's shame on them.
Right. And like along the lines that, when it comes to, somebody who's misrepresenting themselves or whatnot, that when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's pretty easy to spot those people, even just talking to them. There's, the simple stuff that they don't pick up on or whatnot, or just etiquette things and whatnot. So, but for the most part, I mean, like I said, I feel like those people dime themselves out pretty quickly. Like, we know why you're really here. Let's get real.
Right. Yeah.
Type of thing where, those of us who were like, no, like we pretty much live and breathe this. Like, it's not the likes and the social media and all of that. I mean, it's all well and good, but like, not only is that stuff like exhausting to try to keep up with all of it.
Yes.
But it's so unreasonable to be like, oh yeah, well, don't you post every single thing that you catch? Oh my God, no, I would never sleep. Like there's just not enough hours in the day.
Right.
But, I don't think it really takes anything away from, people that are, their heart is really in it. For some people that are just doing it for now, I guess is a way to say it.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Pretty much. Yeah. And, that's been a thing for me too, is just like, I'm not here about getting, all the likes and everything, like that's not important to me. I think I'm still figuring, myself out and where I'm wanting to go with everything, but I've definitely got a better idea, and sometimes it's hard to not want to always go with the flow too. It's just like you always kind of get like that drive to like be with everybody else, be like everybody else, but then you got to step back and be like, no, 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 I got to be true to myself still. I got to be me.
Right. Like
Some,
I mean, and that's like that is part of the challenge when it comes to being a female angler. Like that's one of the things that like it is a weird balance that you have to do, between you are trying to stay legitimate and realistic, and not all of us are into, pink pretty stuff and girly stuff. Some of us just aren't, we're true tomboys. We just get down and dirty like everybody else, and that's just how it is. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a place for everybody though. I think the world is big enough to have all those people involved, but I definitely dig the fact that in kayak angling in particular, that doesn't seem to be nearly as much of a problem as far as the interaction with the guys. Like I don't expect to be put on a pedestal because I'm a girl. That whole mentality of like, oh, I'm just gonna walk in and do whatever I want. Like that's absolutely not the direction I would ever want to go. Because I truly love this sport and I want to be respected, but I want to earn someone's respect. I don't want to just inherently have it, for one reason or another.
Yep.
So, that type of stuff it's important.
Right.
To have integrity,
Yeah. Yeah. And, when I first got into this sport, I always think back, to my first event. I wasn't even cognizant of the fact that I was a woman kayak fishing with a bunch of men. That didn't even cross my mind. That wasn't even like in my plane of existence at that time. I was just about, I'm going to go kayak fishing. I'm going to go to try catch fish in this first tournament. I'm just going to see what the heck's going to happen. I didn't even think about anything else, like nothing else existed. Flash forward to, where, if I've got some popularity, I wouldn't say that I'm like high up there or anything, but like, and I'm like, oh crap, I really got to think about being a woman in this, thing now. Cause it's just like, people are gonna see me for being a woman, whether I like it or not, and I'm just like, I have never even like wanted to think about using like that power for anything. It's just like, why would I even try?
Like, and that's one of those weird, those weird topics of like, oh, well, they just got that spot because they're a chick. Well, no, it takes like quite a lot more than that. I mean, I'm not saying that never happens. Obviously, that does happen.
Right.
I mean, you see it all the time. But you have to look at the overall picture of an angler. Not everybody is going to be the top of the field every single time. It's not realistic. Even the hammers across the country, they don't win every single tournament. That's just how it is.
Yep.
So it's not just about your performance in tournaments and whatnot. I mean, that definitely does add another level to, just who you are as an angler, that you're willing to go compete. But just that whole like, oh, well, she only got that because she's a chick. Well, really? Or did you happen to look that like she puts in a lot of work and like interacts with the community?
Yeah.
And
why are you making that assumption? Are you making that assumption because how she looks? Are you making that assumption because of her Facebook profile, because of her Instagram file? What is making you jump to that conclusion right now? Do you know this person? I like to always want to like ask people that sometimes when I hear people say about that. I'm like, well, what makes you think that? Like, really? Like, is it really because she's, a lady? Like, come on.
Right.
Let's talk about this for a second. Tell me your thoughts on this.
And that's really, and like I started to say before, that's really one thing that's been very nice, at least here in northern Texas, pretty much in Texas as far as we've experienced. I have not had any of the, sometimes you hear some pretty awful stories about, I guess more on the boat side of things. I've never even fished from a bass boat, so I have no idea, especially in tournaments. But the guys down here don't ever come across that way where it's like, ooh, no girls allowed type of thing. It's more like, hey, can you stick them? All right, cool. That's all that matters. Like,
Right. Yep.
I do appreciate the fact that, I don't want to be treated any better or any worse. I just want to fish. Like, that's all it comes down to.
Exactly. Like that, we all have the same goal. We just want to fish.
Yep.
That's what it really comes down to, and it's the other part of it is too, is just like, when the spouses of men out there is just like, honey, I'm not trying to steal your man. That is not even a fathom in my mind. Like, you don't even understand. Like, I'm trying to outfish him right now. I don't care anything about him. I could care less about the way he looks or that you're man. No, screw that.
Yeah, I have heard that there are some ladies that get a little mad, when they hear that there's another lady on the water or that you're going to meet a group of friends and why is there a girl there type of thing. Well, yeah, that's pretty much the farthest thing from my mind at the time. It's to jump to that conclusion is always like, yeah, it's usually totally not even close to how things are actually the interactions that are going on. I mean, I don't know how it is like when you go out fishing with a group of friends, but you always end up like just going your own directions anyway.
Yep.
So, it's not like this intimate setting that some people must have in their minds. It's more like,
yeah, like it's just
I like having the kayak because I'm by myself. That I am the only one fit in it.
Exactly. It's a solo sport, in the kayak fishing world, unless you're in a tandem, which I have seen once before, but it was a married couple, so like it made sense. Like, okay, but it kind of sucks too because you're stuck with that person. You can't be like, oh, I want to go over to this cove, and the other person's like, no, I'm gonna go over to this tree over here, and then you're like, ah.
Right.
But
it's just one of those things that the whole like being married and fishing at the same tournaments and stuff like that. I mean, when we were talking about it, on the reel down, like, man, we are competitive. Like, we definitely we don't rip each other down at all, but we definitely don't help each other. Like I think there is like some weird assumption that like, oh, well, you guys are a couple, so you probably like let each other know, like, hey, you should fish over on this side. No, that is not a thing at all. I don't want that disingenuine win anyway. If I'm gonna land them, I'm gonna land them on my own from what I was doing. I don't want that, type of treatment, I guess.
And that's another interesting topic too, is, you don't see a lot of couples fishing together, that do fish together, and it's just like, do they do that specifically because they don't want that, assumption or perception put on them or what, because like when you do see a couple fishing together, everybody's going to have that assumption. Oh yeah, well, they're totally going to tell. Why wouldn't they tell, each other where everything is? Just like, why do you always have to jump to that conclusion? Like, just stop it.
Right. It's like one of those, like, yeah, we do have to launch at the same launches, but a lot of times now, I mean, you'll see us go in completely opposite directions. So that's really just like that's a silly perception, but I mean, it is cool to have a spouse, that fishes. I know yours is not into it from what I gather.
No.
But it's a fun hobby to share. Like when it's one of those, like you love it just as much as I do, that it is cool. People are like, don't you ever get tired of each other? Like that you're always, your hobbies in your life, you guys are always around each other. And no, man, like because it's a kayak, because we can go on this side and that side and whatnot, you still have your own private time, even though you're both on the water. But I don't know, I guess we're just like, we're still a couple of kids in junior high that just like to hang out. That's what it comes down to.
Right, yeah, exactly. exactly. You know, it's just like we're still out here doing what we love and what we enjoy.
Yeah. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, Man, I had a really good thought when we were talking about that, and I just completely lost it. Um,
The thing that you mentioned about like, well, I am starting to kind of become somebody who's getting recognized more and more. Like you'd mentioned, you're like, well, I'm not like the most known person in the world, but people are starting to recognize you. And like, I do think there is some sort of a level of like inherent responsibility to it's especially the younger generation. Now that's not to say that like I'm sure there are a ton of women out there who want to get into the sport or they want to even just bank fish, but they don't know how to get into it or they feel intimidated by it or whatnot. So in that regard, that is one of the things that's like, no, I think that's kind of to a point, you do kind of have a responsibility to set an example of, heck, you can do it too. You don't have to be afraid just because it's a boys club. That's
right.
not the thing anymore. Like, I bet you there are a lot more of us out there than people realize.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And like, so those of us who do have the opportunity to have a spotlight, or a platform to talk, yeah, like I'll raise my voice for that.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it's also too, I think about, why or what keeps, women, ladies, whatever age from getting into fishing, it could be a million different reasons, maybe they're too scared to go out there because like, they aren't okay with touching like worms and fish and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's okay to
Right.
admit that, that doesn't make you any less of a person or a lady, and that is also the common stereotype that is put on women too, and it's like, it's okay to have that, and if somebody's going to shame you for it, then tell them to get the hell out of there, like screw them for, thinking that you're a wussy or whatever. It's just like, no, who cares what this one person thinks, you're going to have 100 other ladies who are going to be like, just do it, go out there and do it, and just like you're going to develop this passion, and you're like, mind's going to be blown at like how awesome this thing is, and like become an obsession as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, you're gonna miss out on so much if you don't give it a try.
Right. And I mean, there are so many different people from all different walks of life, and a lot of the women's groups on Facebook and whatnot, that type of thing every once in a while does come up where someone's like, I'll just admit it, I'm afraid to touch a fish type of thing. And you're like, hey, they make gloves for that. Like, that's all right if that's got to be your thing. I know dudes that don't like to touch fish,
Right.
like it's a thing across the board. That's just not something that everybody talks about all the time.
Yes.
Or like just making those little adjustments for somebody who maybe they don't want to, get on a national trail and compete and all that stuff, but they want to just get into the sport to get out and get healthier and, be active with their families. So for all those reasons, like it's definitely, I like that more and more of us are starting to kind of like come out of the woodwork and say like, hey man, you could do this too. Like here's some information on it, come
Right.
visit our websites or our podcasts or whatever. I mean, there's so many avenues now.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
And the other thing too is just like, don't let that stupid perception of you gotta be a bikini girl to go kayak fishing and look good catching a fish. No, 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 no. The fish don't care
Nope.
what you look like. They're
Nope.
just worrying about getting food. And if you put it in front of their face, they're gonna eat it.
Right, exactly. And that really is like, teach their own. If that's how you want to roll and catch fish, in a two-piece, more power to you. But, when you're out there like really dogging it for the day, like that's not the right attire for me personally.
Right.
I'd much rather be, in full cover, and with a hood and a buff and whatnot. I mean, especially when you're on the water in Texas sun. I mean, you do that half naked, and you're asking for cancer. I mean, just
right. Not only that, but like, all right, you're out there catching fish and everything. The first time you have like a weight or a hook fall down in there, then you'll learn your lesson. You'll be like, oh yeah, this isn't like very functional, is it? No, honey, it's not. Put on real clothes that like protect your body, that's functional, and
Right.
just you don't have to impress anybody. Just go fishing.
Then that's part of what's awesome about the kayaking world. There's nobody to impress. We're fishing alone in our boats. Like, there's never going to be a marshal on this shoulder and a camera guy on this shoulder. That's part of the beauty of the sport overall. There's obviously the attention's going to grow the more the sport grows, but there's still that like crunchy down home feel to it where you're like, nope, still just me and my kayak, and I can get way farther up in the junk than a boat can. So
yes. Yep. And I can go around the shoreline and get the lures that the boats leave, and the trees and the bushes too. So
that is totally a good hobby. That's like a favorite pastime.
Right. Exactly. And when it comes to setbacks for people too, is just like, who cares if you're an itty bitty thing or a very large woman? It doesn't matter. If it gets you outside and it gets you active, just do it.
Right. Absolutely. There is no perfect female angler out there. Everybody has her own style and their own thing, and hey, that's the really cool thing about this sport is, like, bring it on. I'll see you on the water.
Right. Exactly. Awesome. Oh man. What else was I gonna ask you or talk about today? It's just like it's been interesting. So like before we did our recording, like sometimes when I record with guests, sometimes it'll be a quick little chat, and then we record, and then we chat a little bit afterwards, and then we call it a day. Sometimes I'll talk with somebody for a half hour or so, then we record, then I'll talk with them for a few hours. So me and Katie, we didn't even record last night. We talked for hours. I was just like, this is awesome.
That was pretty fun. It was one of those like, Ryan, I'm going to go do a podcast real quick. It's probably like an hour or so. Maybe it'll run over a little bit. No big deal. And like 4 hours later, I was like, so we had a really good discussion. It was really nice to meet somebody who's another female angler that like has a lot of the same feelings on a lot of stuff. You don't get to, really talk about stuff with somebody who has a lot of the same views or whatnot. Like, I mean, it was fun. I look forward to doing that in the future. Maybe, that's a thing that could be a thing. I don't know. Anything can happen now.
Right. Exactly. That's the other thing too, about ladies getting into the sport, it's just like, you never know who you're going to meet, or what opportunities might come from it. I mean, you could have like the next best idea for making a product that works for every female angler. I mean, you could come up with the coolest coloration for a fishing reel, because, like you were saying, I don't want this hot pink, reel and rods. Like, no, ain't nobody got time for that. No, I don't. I want some cool colors. I want greens and purples and blues. I mean, those are typical like guy colors sometimes, but like I want some cool stuff too.
Hey, I'm right there with you. I freaking, see, I'm more, I guess, monochromatic, because like I dig that most of like my gear is black and whatnot, but like I do have an Abu setup of a Vengeance, or not a Vengeance. I do have a Vengeance, but the one I'm talking about is the Veritas, and I have a rocket on that. So it's a white rod with a red reel, which I was like, I'm gonna not like this, but it's pretty sharp. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I dig that it's like a way different color combination than you see normally, because everything is like mostly black or blue. You know, there's
Right, yeah, it's just so like, monotone across the board. It's just like I want more customization. I mean, I've seen guys get pretty creative with it, but I'm just like, you bring women into this, oh man, your minds are gonna be blown.
yeah, outside and like you said, like outside of the like, not all of us like pretty pink princess stuff or just that plain mint green, type.
Imodium
Those
green,
colors,
Pepto
like
pink.
salmon. Yeah, like salmon colored stuff. Not all of us girls are into pastels. That's just not how it is anymore.
Right. Yep.
That's just not my style. But
Right.
that's like a whole other discussion of its own.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome, awesome. All right, Katie. Well, do you have anything else that you want to bring up? Any like what's your next event?
My next event, it'll be next week on Thursday. We'll be up in Alabama for Logan Martin. We will totally be rocking the water with those 230 something other people.
Oh boy.
And then following that, we'll be coming right back home, and the next bass event will be on Fork. So we'll be all over the place. And now people can actually find us, like you'd mentioned, my website, which is www.fishlikeacat.com, and that's with a K. But I did just start constructing teambacka.com because that just, that was a thing that just kind of like naturally happened, obviously. So all of the associated social media things, with that and whatnot. And we'll see if YouTube like becomes more of a thing in the future. We talk about doing that, trying to get more content on there, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But you can definitely follow along with the stuff we're doing when you find our stuff online.
Awesome.
Make sure like throw up a follow and a subscribe or a like or whatever thing it is on whichever platform you're on.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, and we'll actually post all those different links on our YouTube post of this episode, then also on our Facebook. We'll definitely get you tagged along with your sponsors and your websites and your Instagram handles and all that other fun stuff.
Sweet.
See, definitely. Well, Katie, it's been an awesome time chatting with you today, and definitely some good topics here. And I think we'll call it a good day. It's been a great time having you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And to everybody else out there, have a great day and hope you get on the water soon.
Go check out the website, guys. Paddle, the letter N and fin.com. Also check out YouTube. youtube.com/paddle-and-fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest, feel free to email us at paddle, the letter N and fin @gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're doing giveaways, announcements, things like that at Facebook and Instagram at paddle and fin. Shout out to our show supporters, Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayak, Hammered Lures, Fish Mob Lures, TRC Covers, Ketch Products. Go to ketchproducts.com. You could put the paddle and fin logo right on your catch board. Don't forget to go over and pick up your JigMasters Jigs. Use promo code PNF20 and save 20% today. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps grow the audience, helps others find our podcast. So please drop a 5-star rating in on the podcast platform you're listening on. Don't forget about the recycled plastics program, you guys. Take your used plastic baits, put them in an envelope, mail them to the address in the show notes. Our man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures melts those down, makes new baits, and donates them to various chapters of Heroes on the Water.